But there are people who want to work who can't get hired.
I was laid off a year and a half ago almost, and I've been looking for a job ever since.
Are you looking for a job? Or do you have anyone close to you trying to find a job? If so, maybe you have noticed the sudden switch in the US job market. Some months ago, employers were so rushed to hire workers that they were doing anything they could to make it easier for people to apply. However, it's all gone now as people encounter difficulties getting a job despite being experienced. Does this mean the job market has turned for the worse? Economists seem to think otherwise. In this video, I will explain the condition of the US job market and how it affects job seekers. Let's get started. 2024 started with a bang. Contrary to what economists forecast, the United States produced an unexpectedly sizable batch of jobs in January, a boon for American workers that shows the labor market retains remarkable strength after 3 years of expansion. According to the Labor Department, employers added 353,000 jobs in January on a seasonally adjusted basis, while the unemployment rate remained at 3.7% for 2 consecutive years, being the longest such stretch in more than 50 years. Here is an ABC News report on that.
Good morning, Gio. You're right. That blockbuster jobs report even took many Wall Street pros by surprise. The economy added 353,000 jobs in January, twice as many as expected. The unemployment rate held steady at 3.7%.
The report also put a job growth in 2023, including revisions that added more than 100,000 to the figure previously tallied for December. This report prompted a victory lap from Biden administration officials who highlighted an unemployment rate only a few ticks above the 70-year low. Let's hear Biden's speech.
With the American Rescue Plan, we provided relief and support directly to working-class families. Our economy came roaring back. Unemployment dipped below 4% by the end of my first year in office. Now it's been below 4% for the longest stretch in 50 years of American history.
The fact that unemployment has been below 4% for 2 years is a very clear and reliable signal that the labor market is not just tight, but a reliably and persistently tight one. In the report, the educational sector added 112,000 jobs, while professional and business services added 74,000. The only major sector to cut workers was mining and logging. Average hourly earnings also grew swiftly at 0.6% from December. Job market in 2023. Going back to last year, Daniel Zhao, lead economist at Glassdoor, commented on the market being strong and surprisingly resilient, especially after 2023, when there were headlines about layoffs and forecasts of recession. Here are his claims.
I would say that the job market overall is still very strong. We do see that even though there are signs of cooling as the broader economy cools, we're going from white hot to red hot. So the temperature is coming down a few degrees, but overall things are still healthy.
According to statistics from the Labor Department, the number of job openings in August 2023 increased by more than 1 million, while people quitting their jobs remained steady over the same period. In the monthly job openings and labor turnover study, the number of job openings around the country rose to 9.6 million that same month, an increase of 690,000 from the previous month. Here is how CNBC reported.
Yes, absolutely. A surprise. Strong number for job openings and labor turnover, affectionately known as JOLTS. Number 9,610,000. That best estimates, and it is the best level going back to May when it was slightly higher at 9,616,000.
But the increase came as August saw 5.9 million hires and 5.7 million separations, relatively unchanged from the previous month. Job openings in professional and business services spurred the jump with an increase of 509,000. All these are said to cause labor shortages. But is it possible to have labor shortages? Let me know your opinion in the comments section. Now let's continue. What is a labor shortage? A shortage occurs when there aren't enough job market workers to fill the available roles. A labor shortage can be identified by comparing the number of available jobs against the unemployment rate. If there are significantly more jobs than job seekers, there is a labor shortage. A labor shortage can benefit workers as their skills become more in demand. There might be the opportunity to negotiate higher wages or better benefits, or enter into new industries that were formerly too competitive. The existing labor force may be able to lobby for better conditions as employee retention becomes more critical. However, a labor shortage can create productivity, cash flow, and innovation issues for employers. Without top talent, it's harder to develop new products. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we have a lot of jobs but no workers to fill them. Even if every unemployed person in the country found a job, we would still have nearly 3 million open jobs.
What we most have to worry about is workers. We basically have just about run out of workers. And we're not only run out of workers that are not skilled, but we've run out of skilled workers, and there's a lot we have to do to keep this economy going.
Why are we in a worker shortage? At the height of the pandemic, more than 120,000 businesses temporarily closed, and more than 30 million U.S. workers were unemployed. Since then, job openings have steadily increased while unemployment has slowly declined. In 2022, employers ended up adding an unprecedented 4.5 million jobs. A strong job market is good news, but many job openings are unfilled because the U.S. does not have enough workers. Even though more Americans were participating in the workforce then than before the pandemic, the overall share of the population participating in the labor force has dropped. If the labor force participation rate today were the same as in February 2020, the nation would have 2.1 million more Americans in the workforce to help fill those open jobs. The Great Resignation effect. Most notably, America experienced what has become known as the Great Resignation. Between April 2021 and April 2022, 71.6 million people left their jobs, which averaged 3.98 million people quitting each month. Let's listen to this news.
4 million resignations in April alone. So if you've been thinking about calling it quits, don't just walk out of the job.
Key industries affected included leisure, hospitality, food services, and retail, often incurred after poor pandemic-related experiences such as temporary mass layoffs, essential employees being forced back to work in unsafe conditions, and poor treatment from customers during a stressful time. The pandemic forced many people to change how they worked, leading to a permanent expectation shift from some workers, with many now demanding remote work or greater flexibility in their hours. This creates challenges for employers trying to fill in-person roles. Even if workers are available, they may not be willing to take the open jobs. Finally, some workers' health was severely affected, which removed them from the full-time workforce. Other factors. Some of the factors contributing to this shortage are: Number 1, early retirements and an aging workforce. As of October 2021, the pandemic drove more than 3 million adults into early retirement. The number of adults between 55 years and older being detached from the labor force due to retirement grew from 48.1% in Q3 of 2019 to 50.3% in Q3 2021. Here's a video discussing it.
Sure. So there's a new report from the Federal Reserve that came out that 29% of adults who retired in the past year said and cited that factors related to COVID-19 were the reason that they retired. And this new report really accelerates retirement for baby boomers because either work wasn't available or they had to stop working to care for family members.
Additionally, the share of older individuals within the U.S. population is steadily increasing, and this trend will likely continue. This shift is partly attributable to younger generations having fewer children than their predecessors, resulting in a progressively older and diminishing population. Number 2, the net international migration to the U.S., which has been at its lowest level in decades. U.S. Census Bureau data shows that net international migration to the U.S. only contributed to a 247,000 person increase in the U.S. population between 2020 and 2021. Compared to the prior decade's high of over a million increase in the U.S. population between 2015 and 2016 due to immigration, the impact that immigration has had on U.S. population growth dropped by 76%. Number 3, lack of access to childcare. A lack of access to high-quality, affordable childcare was an issue even before the pandemic. The pandemic further created a vicious cycle for the industry. To return to work, workers need reliable childcare, but providers are facing immense challenges themselves. The pandemic forced many childcare providers to close or scale down. Between February and April 2020, the industry lost 370,600 jobs, 95% of which were held by women. Unfortunately, the recovery has not been swift. As late as September 2021, childcare industry employment remained 10% lower than pre-pandemic levels. Many workers now stayed unemployed in the spirit of entrepreneurship and opened up their businesses. Workers of all ages, but primarily younger generations, have also tapped into a new source of income in large numbers: digital commerce. In 2020, 2 million individuals made 6 figures or more on social media. The cultural shift spurred by the digital age is spreading into the labor market, introducing new challenges to attracting employees that employers must now navigate. But was it truly a bang? With all that I said earlier, anyone who needs a job could get one without any hassle, since employers need someone who can work for them seriously. However, it's all a lie. According to what the masses are experiencing, the job market looks solid only on paper. Even before the pandemic, job hunting was becoming as miserable as it could be, as companies took more and more time to stretch out and ask candidates to undergo a series of interviews. The labor shortage during the pandemic only resulted in a reprieve. With the recession looming, companies are returning to their old habits of putting candidates through grueling processes. The ugly fact. Let me give you an imaginary example of what an average American is going through. Alex did everything right while searching for a job after getting laid off from his previous job before the pandemic. He needed a full-time job again after staying off full-time jobs to try entrepreneurship. He applied for hundreds of positions, relying on nearly a dozen job boards, researching potential employers, and writing personalized cover letters. Mostly, he heard nothing back, regardless of how qualified he was. Imagine you are Alex. How would you feel? I bet you would be psychologically heartbroken. Meanwhile, headlines touted a record number of job openings. The situation doesn't make sense for Alex and many other Americans. There's so much difference between what they hear about jobs and what is happening. For some jobs, people don't have the right skills, or at least the skills employers say they're looking for. Other jobs are undesirable. They offer bad pay, an unpredictable schedule, or don't feel worth it to unemployed workers. In some cases, many perfectly acceptable candidates and jobs are out there. Still, for many reasons, they're just not being matched. Some workers are hesitant to return. They're nervous about COVID-19, have care responsibilities, or something else is holding them back. While Alex didn't get feedback, several people would get replies after many applications. Still, notwithstanding, some go through more than 6 rounds of interviews over multiple months only to be rejected. Part of the difficulty stems from a tightening labor market, especially in fields like tech, which have had hundreds of thousands of layoffs in the last 9 months. There is now, on average, 1 job opening for every 2 applicants on LinkedIn, a big change from early 2022, when there was 1 job opening per applicant on average. But it's not just the economy causing companies to change their hiring processes in ways that make them take longer. The pandemic increased the use of one-way video interviews, in which applicants are asked to record a video of themselves answering a list of preset questions because interviews couldn't be done in person. However, the proliferation of these interviews gives companies much more content to sort through. Many job seekers are even targeted by scams in which they would be offered a mouth-watering job and even set up calls and interviews. But in the end, those people only pose as recruiters to know candidates' personal information and job accounts. Even legitimate companies post ghost jobs that they never fill. Employers post ghost jobs to get a pool of candidates they may use someday, to give the impression that their company is growing and to keep current employees motivated. According to a Harris poll conducted on behalf of Time magazine, this miserable job market appears to be worse for people with a college degree. It was found that 51% of job seekers with bachelor's degrees who had at least one interview completed the interview process without receiving an offer, compared to 35% with, at most, a high school diploma. Those with a bachelor's degree were also more likely than those with a high school diploma to be asked to complete a job skills assessment and do a one-way interview in which they record themselves answering preset questions and report inconsistencies between the job requirements and salary range listed in the posting versus what they were told later on in the interview process. Candidates frustrated with the rigmarole are applying to more positions, creating a vicious cycle in which the job market is even more saturated with applications. Employers turn to software to sort through these applications, which increases the process. While the news claims a robust job market, the reality is different. Did you experience anything mentioned in this video? Share your experience in the comment box below. Subscribe to my channel for more exciting financial news like this. See you on the next one.